You're listening to Inside the Locker Room with Wimp and Barry Sanderson on Tide 100.9 in Tuscaloosa.
After the Royals came out on top 8-5.
Inside the Locker Room with former Crimson Tide basketball coach Wimp Sanderson and his son, former SEC and ACC assistant basketball coach Barry Sanderson. It's time to take you inside the locker room on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Good morning and welcome in to a Tuesday edition of Inside the Locker Room. 205-342-9904 will be the phone number to get in on the show with us this morning. X counts at Locker Room 109 at Barry Sanderson at Wimp Sanderson 1. If you want to email us, the email is wimpandbarry@yahoo.com. Download the app, the Tide 100.9 app, to your smartphone, and you can take us with you anywhere you go. Before we get started, we want to thank Yellowwood Pressure Treated Pine for making this 7 o'clock hour possible. They do it for us each and every day. Go to yellowwood.com to find a dealer that is close to you. You're going to build the fence, the deck, the pergola, the 5-star backyard, and always remember, if it doesn't have that yellow tag on it, then believe me, you don't want it. Got Chase behind the glass. This morning, 7:30, Kevin Skarbinski will join us. And then at 8:15, we'll have the great Doug Bell, who was not able to be on with us yesterday. Good morning, Dad. How are you this morning?
Probably wish I was behind the glass somewhere today after trying to read all this stuff about monies and so forth. Today's little short thing that I have is about Auburn's Big Cat recruiting and very little about the pledges the money and NIL stuff that players are going to get. It's not the 25, 26. I may not even be here then. So the Antoine, I guess you pronounce it, Fegus, the big safety kid from Thompson, was the fourth commitment, really a good commitment to Auburn. So he was outstanding guy. Auburn also had Blake Woodby, as we know. Derek Smith, I think flipped. That's about 4 pledges that they've gotten out of the Big Cat weekend. They also got 3 pledges, and they're just pledges. These are in the 26th season for guys that they like. So they do a good job down there at Big Cat weekend and get a lot of guys verbally committed. We all know that the verbal commitments they're good. They're not sealed in concrete, but they are good. There's no doubt about that. What's happening here with the NCAA and the money and so forth is they've got a new revenue model that they're trying to bring 25, 26 with roster sizes, roster limits as well, and NIL regulations. Those are the 3 things that's going to take place. They're going to have a law firm to oversee the NIL stuff. They're going to have what they call a special master to look at the rules when you try to go beyond the rules. The 22% of what the power conferences are going to generate is what I read this morning. So it will be 22% of the millions that they're getting. The schools and the athletes are splitting it. If you were to go to the power conferences for men's basketball and football, they'll probably get each would get $135,000. For women's basketball, they probably get about $35,000. The reason I say about, and the reason I say I'm not sure, because everything changes so fast. But they have the law firm to check it and all. Let me just say one thing to you that I thought was important for me. it was a big deal for me to to beat Auburn. I needed to beat them. I wanted to beat them bad. I didn't like them when I was recruiting. I had some problems with them when I was assistant, and I really tried to beat them. I never thought that guys that I got from way off, and we got some early, understood the importance of beating Auburn. A guy out in the state of Alabama, he understood the importance of beating Auburn. And when I had four Alabama kids, and we beat them pretty good, we understood what it meant to beat Auburn. When I had guys who were not around, I never thought I got it over to them the importance of beating Auburn. That may sound stupid to all of you, but it wasn't stupid to me when I was doing it. So my point is, the more guys you can get from the state of Alabama that can play, you need to continue to keep you. If you can go to California, great, because you got to add a tie there from Washington. You go and steal one from Georgia, steal one. You do all that, but also you need to be darn sure that you do a very good job in your state. That's it. That's it for me. We got good guests.
Yeah, I'd be a little concerned. I know Alabama still has, I guess, the number 2 recruiting class, but you don't want to give Auburn some momentum. Alabama, now rankings are rankings. They don't have one player in the top 10 committed to Alabama. Now, that's committed. Things can change. The number 1 player is going to Ohio State. The number 2 player Auburn, 3 player Auburn, 4, 5 Auburn, 6 Ohio State. Then the rest are going to Auburn. You had to go all the way down to number 11, Anthony Rogers, who is committed to Alabama. Now, Auburn's back's against the wall. They had the Big Cat weekend. I believe this NIL stuff's going to change a lot after this year. So I think the people are trying to use it as much as they can. I don't even know if these kids coming in 25 class are going to be able to, these collectives that they're taking, according to the AD I talked to, those are going to kind of go away. You have to, the extra money you get will be NIL, and it has to be true NIL based on your name, image, and likeness, and anything over $600 has to be approved by a legislature. So the NIL stuff, unless they can take it to court and sue them.
I didn't see the $600 thing.
It's kind of going away. So I don't know, but certainly it was very orchestrated. They were having guys commit at certain times. They had on 3 guy, I guess, on call there, and had some flips or whatever. But I don't know. I don't know how many of these guys that maybe Alabama didn't. Well, obviously they won a couple of them because they flipped back. Now, the season has to be played a lot of time between now and the signing date. But I don't know. I would be a little bit worried just a bit. Maybe coming from the West Coast, they don't understand maybe how cutthroat recruiting is in the SEC over here. So you knew that Auburn's going to have those guys down there and probably offer a lot of money there. So anyway, do you worry about this momentum that Auburn's creating a little bit?
I said all that just to say, if people can hear me, I'm not sure I'm on, but that you need to be organized in your state. And you need to have the state of Alabama broken down for each coach to go into that particular area. And that is his area. And he goes and visits with the coach. If you've got North Alabama, you're going to take Athens, Decatur, Huntsville, and Florence. And that's a big group of coaches. You go in there and you look at every prospect they've got, whether they're in the 10th grade or not. And coach number 2 is down at Mobile. We're looking at in Daphne and places like that down in Mobile. So you've got it all over the state. But the one thing that you need to do And I understand you get played. You got to go to Georgia. You got to I know recruiting good as anybody, but you got to be darn sure that in your state that you do a very good job of these people liking you. The head coach at Alabama has done a great job, personality-wise. But you need to be organized in your state to feel like that the players in this state have a genuine interest and won't be flipped so much.
Yeah, well, I agree, but I think Auburn just does their research. They got guys coming that are committed to Alabama. They find out exactly what Alabama's giving them. They bring them down there and they get them in a room and tell them they're going.
I'm not arguing.
They're going to give them more.
Them in the end, I can see you lose them in the end, but you got to you just got to be. You got to feel good about your state. You can lose some in the end. You can get some from them in the end. You can have a weekend like Big Cat, or whatever you want to have, a Roll Tide weekend, whatever you want to have. But sure you can. You can. I've lost plenty of them in the end.
Yeah, but I think this is a different deal.
It ain't a different deal.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
no,
it is.
Not.
Yeah, it is.
You're wrong.
It's not. When you can
you're
pay
talking about the money part.
Yeah, and that's why they're making the decision. It's not like they're comparing Alabama football to Auburn football. That's not what it is anymore.
I don't agree on that one.
they compare them.
I don't agree that every one of them is money. You want to give it to the fans, that's fine. But there's some that's not money. It's some because they like the school. They've been around the school. They've been around the coaches. That's important. They may get a little money, but there's some that's not like you say.
Well, I'm just saying, yeah, there's some, but
yeah.
But if you lay it out there and then they do their research for those kids to get down there for Big Cat weekend and they double, and I'm not saying this happened, they double what Alabama the kid was giving them, then those kids flip. Now, whether they can keep them flipped is a matter, because I think the rules are going to change. I don't think they're going to be able to give them that money. 2-minute truck, they're at 1330 Martin Road East. That's where you go pick up your boxes, your packing supplies, whatever you need to make this a smooth move. Whether it's local, out of town, out of state, no problem. Let the professionals handle it. Give them a call today, 205-247-5050. That's 2-minute truck movers who care.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
Tuscaloosa traffic now from the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center. It's a very quiet ride this morning as we have no big accidents or breakdowns, no heavy interstate backups to contend with either. The trip on 2059 between Foster's and Cottondale is moving well. If you're traveling Lurling Wallace down from Northport, crossing the Hugh Thomas Bridge to the University exit, and the drive along McFarland from Buell and Coker continuing down to U of A and I-20 beyond, no problems there either. With your Tuscaloosa traffic now, I'm Ray Romero.
Here's what's trending on the Tuscaloosa thread.
Good Tuesday morning. Controversy over an alleged racial slur used by a white co-owner of the iconic Nick's Original Filet House in West Tuscaloosa continues. The local NAACP chapter and those involved in the incident are demanding an apology from Jack Mulch, who allegedly used the term in reference to a group of black customers who were visiting with a white friend.
Exceptional pieces to mark your special occasion.
Visit Hudson Pool Fine Jewelers, downtown Tuscaloosa, or at hudsonpool.com.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Good morning. Today, expect intervals of clouds and sunshine with hot and humid conditions. Highs will reach around 95 degrees. Tonight, look for partly cloudy skies, the low near 75. And for tomorrow, expect mostly sunny skies with a few clouds. Continued heat and humidity with highs near 96. I'm meteorologist Bill Murray on Tide 100.9.
For more from Tide 100.9, let's it fly! Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and SoundCloud.
Welcome back to Inside the Locker Room. Pressure treated pine from Great Southern Wood. If it doesn't have the yellow tag on it, you don't want it. Before we get to the Yellowwood Hotline, let me ask you this. I think it's very important that Hugh Freeze flips for the Auburn fan base, that he flips Alabama recruits. I think the Auburn fan base loves that. They got to start beating them, and they got to beat them in recruiting. They're close to beating them on the field to last year. So would you not agree to that? So I get this out. This kid that's committed to Alabama, my fan base is going to love it if I can flip him. then I make him an offer that he can't refuse right now in these times to flip the Alabama kid. That's what I'm saying. Do you not agree to that?
Well, I think sometimes they get flipped. I think sometimes you're overdoing it. Personally, I think you can get flipped. I think sometimes with Big Cat Weekend the way it is, if Alabama and Auburn, this kid got the same amount of money, whatever he got, but it's the same amount of money at Auburn, it's the same amount of money at Alabama. I think if the Big Cat Weekend, the guy would go to Auburn. And the reason he would go to Auburn is he feels like it's more of a hometown, homely deal. There's a coaching change at Alabama now. I'm using that against Alabama as I recruit. I'm saying that they're not going to be what they used to be. It's just Alabama of the past. But does money come into play with some of them? Sure, and no doubt about what you say is true. But there's some of them with their parents and their people and the atmosphere down there that stay Auburn or get flipped to Auburn. I've experienced that some, so I would agree. Partly you're right, but I think, and I don't know how much money they give each one. I don't know that they do it like that. Probably they do with some of them, but there's some of them I don't know.
All right, to the Yellowwood Hotline, get Philip in. Morning, Philip.
Good morning, Barry. Barry, I think you're right. I think there's some of these NIL, this polishing up, I'll call it, of the NIL and all that is going to change recruiting. And like you said, it's coming sooner rather than later. Like, for instance, the NCAA will establish a voluntary registration process for NIL service providers, parentheses, agents, financial advisors, etc., to serve as a centralized source for them to work with athletes. Now, there's two problems with that as I see. What if the agents don't voluntarily do any registration?
Well, under the new legislation, it's all been turned over to the judge. Now, the NCAA, I mean, they negotiated this settlement, all right? So you got the $2.7 billion that's going to be going to the former players from 2016, I believe, to 2020, whatever that is, 2024, where they're going to be getting part of that $2.7 billion over a 10-year period. Also in the negotiation with the NCAA is they negotiated out that basically they're going to have a committee that's going to determine whether they want these collectives to go away. Just boosters just giving money because this guy's a good player. They want that out. So they wanted to go to true NIL. So the true NIL is you got to justify why you're paying Ryan Williams whatever you're paying him. What is he endorsing? What is he doing to earn it? And then there's going to be a committee that's going to approve that. Now, right now, they're just paying these guys just because they can throw a 100-mile-an-hour fastball and he's getting money and he's not doing anything. And so that's the loophole that they're going to try to take away these collectives. Now, they have the revenue sharing, the $23 million that they're going to give out to the scholarship athletes, and I think men's basketball and football will make the majority of that. So you're going to get that, but you're not going to get that and the collective stuff. It's going to have to be true NIL, and there's going to be a committee that's going to have to approve it. Now, you can say, well, we're not going to be a part of it. Well, if you're caught taking that money over $600 and it's not reported, then my understanding is they got it in front of the judge now. If that all passes, then you're ruled ineligible. So that'll be a little.
Well, you can get on here and say, Barry, you're right, all you want to. And Barry, you're right. Barry's talking about the future of 25 and 26.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you right now, I've been down through it. When they go to Auburn, though it wasn't even money involved when I was doing it, I'd lose them because of whatever. I don't know whether they gave them something, not maybe a sport coat or something, but I know what I'm talking about because I've done it more than anybody that's ever been on a radio show.
My point with saying that was that they're not doing it like that now, though. That's not how recruiting is anymore.
I understand that, but they're more going to Auburn than you think, even though the money is the same or not as much.
Yeah.
I'm telling you right now that there is.
Yeah.
So y'all can like her. You can bury your right all you want to. Yes. Do they cheat and get more of them? Sure.
Well, it's not cheating now. That. It's not cheating now, though.
Oh, I understand that. It's not cheating at all now. You can do that, but the coaches that go in there and do a good job with those kids and those parents is also a big factor with a lot of them, because money is important, but not quite as important with some families as you might think.
Cool.
Well, I guess what I want to say is Slide Hyde can't be your representative anymore. If you're a student athlete from Selma or somewhere, you can't have Joe Blow off the corner being your rep. You got to have a legitimate lawyer / agent, whatever, now to concoct these to get these NIL deals registered and sent off to the clearinghouse for approval. You can't just use Joe Blow off the street. It's got to be a registered agent, so it's got to be some trouble these kids are going to have to go through.
I think the schools are going to get involved in those too, and they're going to send the deals to the NCAA. I think they're going to bring it back to that, and they've got to be legitimate. Like, there's a lot of this money that's going around to these guys that are not legitimate, and so they're trying to make it true NIL. You start a business, you got jerseys you can sell. I mean, if you're going down to a car, yeah, but they're also going to be getting that revenue share of that $23 million. So the Jalen Milrose and those guys are still going. Of course, he'll probably be gone by the time they're doing that, but they're still going to be getting a nice chunk of money on top of their scholarship as well.
Yeah, what Barry's saying is at 25, 26, y'all, they're going to do this. Right now, they're cheating to get these players at Auburn, because they give them more, going down there and give them more money. Therefore, they're flipping, because at 25, 26, it's all going to change. I think
my point is, though, that's when these guys are going to be there at 25, 26, so they're probably not even going to get this.
But I agree. But my point is, right now, it is the money with some of them is big, and some of them it's not quite as big as we think. Because I know.
I agree with that. I mean, I totally agree with you, Wimp, on that.
I think they're trying to get it back to what it was meant to be, true NIL. And instead of just,
what you said all along, Bear. That's what you said all along.
And get rid of these. Yeah. Somehow we got these collectives in there, and I asked that AD, I said, what are they going to do with all that money in the collectives? And he wasn't 100%. They got, a lot of these schools got a lot of money built up in these collectives that may not be going to these players anymore after this year. So it's almost like, hey, this year you better get as much as you can get, because things are going to change.
They're not going to stop collectives right now either place.
Yeah. So because it hasn't been. The judge got to prove all this stuff, so they've sent it. It's like the 34 scholarships in baseball. Okay, when do you have to have your 34? Nobody knows all that stuff right now. So a lot of college baseball coaches have put their recruiting on pause until they know when do they have to have that 34. Is it in the fall or is it in the spring? Or, so it's a lot of questions still to be answered about all this.
Yeah. Hey, well, I appreciate you taking my call, guys. It's complicated. It's as clear as mud now, isn't it?
There you go. Thank you, Tom. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Back up to the Yellowwood Hotline. Good morning, Tom.
Hey, Tom.
Hey, Barry. Hey, Coach. Here's the problem with this past weekend at Big Cat. It was very successful for Auburn. They did a great job. But here's what concerns me, and I didn't know this until yesterday. Gary Harris pointed something out that I think everybody better be concerned about that follows recruiting and that's into the rivalry of Alabama and Auburn. Not one of the commitments that Auburn got yesterday or this past weekend had Alabama in their top 5. That is a reason to be concerned.
Well, what do you mean they didn't have them in their top 5? You had two guys that were committed.
They narrowed their list down and Alabama was not in their top 5.
But you had 2 of the kids committed that were committed to Alabama, so they were their top 1.
Well, I'm saying not the Smith kid from. I'm not counting here. I'm counting the others that were ranked in the state of Alabama.
Yeah.
Outside of Coleman, whatever his name was, a defensive lineman.
Antonio
and
Coleman.
The Smith himself.
Yeah, Antonio Coleman. And
you move past them 2, and the others that committed, the kid from Thompson, the safety, and the rest of that group, they didn't have Alabama in their top 5. And to me, that is very concerning.
Well, when I was doing it, I made darn sure that we did everything we possibly could in the state of Alabama to not make a mistake on a kid's ability. We worked our panties off to be sure that, and I took some that Auburn. I took some that Auburn didn't want because I liked them. So the first thing we did, we weren't buying them back then, and it's totally different. But the conversation's the same. We made darn. We looked at them and looked at them and looked at them and compared them to somebody else somewhere else, and decided whether we would need to take them or not because we was fighting Auburn's butt on the court. We wanted to get the right people, so it was important that we got the right people. The only thing I'm saying is they may have bought it. Hey, they may have bought every one of them down there. I have no idea.
It don't matter. It doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't matter. Right now, you can do it.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. But the point is, I think that what should concern the head coach and the group that's running the recruiting is that they didn't have Alabama in a favored position going into their commitment. That's the thing that worries me. It's not necessarily who you get or who you don't get. What does it say about the in-state recruiting if they don't have you in their top 2 or 3 or 4 places that they're considering going? That worries me.
That just means that Alabama didn't make them a priority.
They didn't want them. And so my point, Matt, that's the point I'm making. You be darn sure whether you're at Alabama or Auburn that you evaluate the guy as best you possibly can as to his playing ability.
Right. I get that part. I got that down pat. But I'm just saying, if that's the case that you're saying we didn't want them, I don't know about all that, but maybe that is it. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I could be wrong. But that point was made yesterday, and I thought, darn.
Well, they're flipping the ones that you had, and because they're doing they're doing the research on what it would take to get them, and they get them down there, and everybody has a great time, and they sing Kumbaya, and they get them. But there's a long time between now and December when they actually sign on the dotted line. Thank you, Tom.
Plus, at these prices, well, we're burning rubber, not cash. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
Road tripping, business travel, or bringing your car in for repairs. All great reasons to rent a Toyota at Tuscaloosa Toyota. You can rent the latest Toyota models for a day, a week, or a weekend. Every Toyota rental-car comes with 24 hours roadside assistance and
vitamins that control growth. They also perform an important function by controlling blood pressure and minerals like calcium and potassium to keep the entire body healthy.
2-time state champion and 2-time NIT champion, Barry Sanderson breaks down the latest in sports on Inside the Locker Room on Tide 100.9.
Welcome back to Inside the Locker Room. Pressure treated pine from Great Southern Wood. Always remember, if it doesn't have the yellow tag on it, you don't want it. Or get right to the Yellowwood hotline. He's a writer with AL.com, has the lead as well that he writes articles on. Joins us every Tuesday. Kevin Skarbinski. Good morning, Kevin. How are you?
Hey, Kevin. I'm good, fellas. How are you today?
Oh, we're good. We were just discussing Auburn having a big weekend at Big Cat Weekend. You know, when you get all these guys down there, you're going to have a good time. They flip some Alabama recruits. Alabama currently does not have a top 10 in-state recruit committed to their school. Now, there's a lot of time between now and the signing date. Just kind of talk about what you hear about what went on down in Auburn this weekend.
Well, they've certainly gathered some momentum in recruiting, which you knew was going to happen under you, Freeze. It was so bad under Brian Harsin. The effort, the emphasis was just not there. He just never grasped the importance of recruiting, that it's first and foremost if you're going to be successful in the SEC. So Freeze obviously has done it before and done it well, successfully. Maybe didn't always follow the rules as the NCAA discovered, but it's a different time now, and there's a lot of excitement around the Auburn program. And they seem to be focusing their attention in-state, which is not a bad idea. That's obviously where he has relationships. Kalen DeBoer does not have those relationships yet. He and a number of members of his staff are new to the state, so it's going to take time perhaps for them to get to know the high school coaches, get to know the people around the high school programs. So I don't think either program can be upset with where they're at right now in recruiting. DeBoer and Alabama certainly have outperformed what a lot of people expected when they got there, because they didn't have those relationships, and not only in Alabama, but in the South in general. And they've done about as well as you could have wanted nationally. And Auburn has done better than it's done, certainly in the state, in a long, long time. So I think both programs are certainly in a good place when it comes to recruiting. And you made a good point, Barry. I tend not to get too excited about recruiting rankings in July, because signing day is not in July or in August, and a lot of things can change, and especially now, because there are other factors. There's NIL, there's money involved, so it's just so many things can change between now and signing day in December. But it certainly is. It's good for both schools right now, and that's exciting to see.
Yep.
I only have one thing to say, and I'll say this because of experience on a lesser level. Basketball is a lesser level than football. But I think that when you come in as a new coach, or if you're an old coach, that you need to do everything you possibly can to be darn sure that you do what you need to do in your state. That you evaluate those players in your state, and if you don't like them, you pass. If you have to buy them, you buy them. If Auburn's going to buy them, then you buy them. But I think you have to, as well as go out of state. Yes, California's great. Go over to Georgia, whatever. But I'm a firm believer, as some people are not, that you control your state to be successful. Do you get enough football players in Alabama to win? Probably not. But I do think that you do everything you possibly can to get the ones that you want in your state.
Well, that's a proven formula over time. If you're going to be successful on a consistent basis, and no one has done that better in college football than Alabama under Nick Saban for the last 17 years, you definitely recruit inside out. Now, Alabama certainly went national under Saban in terms of recruiting football players. Not that they hadn't done that before, but they also, generally speaking, got most of the best players in the state. I don't know what the numbers are, the percentage, and sometimes it's a little hard to tell sometimes who really wanted a guy, who didn't really want a guy, and people will change their minds on that based on where a guy signs. Well, we didn't really want him in the first place. There's some sour grapes that goes on there in that regard. But yeah, if you don't recruit well in your state, then I think you're going to have a harder time sustaining success. So that's going to be interesting to see with Kalen DeBoer and his staff. Can they go back to the formula and be successful using the formula that Alabama has used for a long time, and that's get the best players in your state, but then go outside. And that's on the flip side for you, Freeze, and Auburn. You know, when Auburn has been consistently good, and it's been a while. Now, they've hit some really high notes, but they've also crashed and burned. And now they've been consistently mediocre to poor over the last few years. But when they've been really good, they go to Georgia and they get players. And that's been harder for them with Kirby in Athens. In fact, you know, I understand from people that I know and talk to, and this goes back some years now, that when Kirby got to Athens, he basically said Auburn is not going to do in Georgia what is traditionally done in Georgia, which is get a number of the best players in that state. And it has been a lot harder for Auburn to get as many good players out of Georgia as it did before Kirby got there. So, and then they've also supplemented in Florida, et cetera.
Well, the whole word is evaluation. That's the whole word. You may evaluate your state if everybody has been in every corner of the state and find you only got 2 prospects this year in football. So the whole key word for all the assistant coaches and the head coaches to evaluate them in the right way.
Well, that's what we don't always know, Wimp. Like I said, who do they really want? Who do they really want?
Yeah.
You know, and recruiting analysts can think they know, and look, those guys have gotten more and more accurate over the years. You got to give them props for how hard they work and the relationships they build with coaching staffs, for example, to know what the schools really are looking for, who they are going after, and if they truly do lose a guy, you know, or did they lose a guy that they would have liked to have had, but it's not going to break their heart. You know, there's a lot of subtlety to this too, and it's easy. We try to make everything simple, right? We put a scoreboard on everything. Oh, well, you know, Auburn has got this many of the top 10 players in the state. Alabama doesn't have a top 10 player in the state. So, you know, Auburn's winning. Well, not overall if you look at the recruiting rankings, nationally, right? Yeah, exactly. How many guys does Alabama, and again, I'm not trying to make excuses for Alabama because I don't know. And a lot of people who think they know don't necessarily know who they really wanted. Are they struggling in state, or is it a case where they're just not as keen on as many players in the state as you might think?
Kevin, obviously the settlement deal came out. I guess they gave it to the judge. There's still a lot of stuff to go through to get all this done. I don't know if they'll be able to get this done by 25, 26. Baseball's got 100 different issues with just 34. When do you have to be at the 34? If you lose a guy, can you add a guy? Stuff that maybe a judge doesn't even know. You had an article about walk-ons. Now, you know, I don't know that football is going to carry 105 scholarship guys. Maybe they'll take 90 and let them have 15 walk-ons, and they won't have to revenue share with those 15 that are walk-ons. Just kind of talk about the walk-on deal, the hard numbers now that you see in each sport.
Well, the bottom line on that and why coaches are upset is because they just won't have as many guys. You know, that's the hard cap. Now it's a hard cap on the roster size. You know, that's the big change for football. They used to have 100. You know, they could have 120 guys out there during the season, and there was no limitation in the off season. So spring practice, winter workouts, you could have 127, 108, 129 guys technically on the team. And then you had to be down to 120 with 80, no more than 85 could be on scholarship. So you could have 35 walk-ons. Well, now it's a hard cap in terms of number of bodies. So you can't have more than 105 guys out there. Now coaches are saying, well, that's dangerous. We play more games, and well, then adjust your practice schedule. You know, don't hit as much. Maybe go more to an NFL style. And then they'll say, well, yeah, but NFL guys, they know how to practice. They've been trained. We're dealing with young guys who have to be taught the fundamentals, and there's truth in that, certainly. But if you can't get by with 105 guys, I mean, let's be honest. Come on. that's just from a football standpoint. I'm not sure I buy the argument that that's not enough players to get through a season. However, to me, and this was the point of my article, isn't it a good thing if you're a school like Alabama, for example, and you can afford it? Why shouldn't you give every player on your roster some financial aid? Now, and that's another thing that's changed. Football used to be a head count sport, meaning everybody on scholarship was on full scholarship.
Right.
And full scholarship was full cost of attendance scholarship.
Right.
And let me tell you, with two sons in college right now, I am acutely aware of there are costs in college beyond tuition and books and room and board. So, and each school has an official, the government puts out numbers. This is the official cost of attendance to attend the University of Florida for an out-of-state student for an entire year. And it's a big number. So, but now you can give out partial scholarships in football. Yeah. You don't have to give everybody you don't have to give every player a scholarship. You can still have walk-ons if you want. However, how's it going to look if Georgia has 105 guys on the roster, the maximum, and then gives everybody at least some scholarship money? Maybe they're paying for maybe the last 15 guys who would be walk-ons normally, or 20 guys, whatever the number. Maybe they're getting books only. Well, you know what? That's pretty valuable. That's to those young men and their families, that would mean something. Or maybe they're getting tuition only. That would absolutely mean something. And you see it every year, and this is what I led the column with. We're about to start seeing these videos where coaches tell players, you are now on scholarship, guys who were walk-ons.
Yeah.
And the genuine emotion that you see from these young men, and then when they tell their families that, hey, I went from getting nothing towards my financial aid. I got no financial aid athletically. You can get academic financial aid, but you couldn't as a walk-on get athletic financial aid. Then, oh my gosh, what a great thing that is for those young men, if you can afford it. And you're also going to have, again, there's going to be competition. Well, why aren't you doing it? They're doing it. Your rival's doing it. How can you not do it? You're in the SEC. You make all this money.
For both of y'all, what's our number of full scholarship? 85.
Right now it's 85 for football. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Now what happens, Barry, when you go to the 105?
Well, I mean, you can give 85 still, and then you could keep 105 guys, and you could give 105 guys full scholarships if you can afford it and you want to do it that way. Kevin, one of the things I talked to an athletic director over the weekend, and he was saying he didn't think that. He said Alabama's pretty much getting whoever they want. He said I don't see them going to the 105 because then they got a revenue share with all those guys. So go 90, have 15 walk-ons. You don't have to revenue share with them, but. The only thing I didn't understand about that isn't a revenue share. It's just a pot of money. You got to give it to the athlete anyway. And I guess my question is, does each school get to decide how much the players are going to get? So at Alabama, can we pay our quarterback more than Auburn can pay their starting quarterback, or is it all the same within the league? That's one of the things I don't completely understand.
And see, that's something – that is so key, and we've talked about it before. I have yet to see an answer to that. And this is one of the many things. This is why, and your point earlier was well taken, Barry. There are so many things still to be decided. It's going to be hard for this to be implemented by the fall of 2025, a year from now.
Why is Dabo so upset?
Dabo's upset. Look, and it's understandable. Dabo was a walk-on.
Yeah, I know.
Who earned a scholarship. And that changed his life in a very positive way because Gene Stallings put him on scholarship. Dabo tells a great story. I heard him tell it at a coaching clinic here in Birmingham, a year or so ago, about being on the scout team. He didn't even think they knew his name. And Woody McCorvey telling him, hey, this week, and I don't remember what week it was or who the opponent was, he said, hey, you're going to practice with the regular offense. with the second team offense, whatever it was. And if you practice well the way you have been practicing, then you might get a chance to play. And that you could see Dabo light up all these years later, just telling that story of what that meant to him. His sons have been walk-ons at Clemson. So, they're Hunter Renfrow, one of the most famous walk-ons in recent memory, who caught the winning touchdown pass against Alabama to win the national championship in 2016. Started as a walk-on. So there are a lot of great stories of guys who were walk-ons who earned a scholarship, who just put in that they had something special about them. They put in that incredible amount of effort, so that's a great and look. Dabo comes by it honestly because that's what he knows what it meant to him. But that doesn't mean you still can't. Again, you still can have walk-ons. You don't have to give everyone even a partial scholarship. Now you can do what you couldn't do in football or basketball before. You can give partial scholarships. Although I doubt men's basketball is going up to 15. Whip, I know you got to be happy about that. After all these years of being two fewer than the women. So but really the bottom line, like I said, is they have cut the number of players you can have on the team.
Yeah,
from 120 to 105.
I think one of the things Dabo doesn't like, and Dad, you talk about this all the time, and I think they're right. If I have 115 guys and I have 85 guys on scholarship, those other, however many that is, they kind of know their role. They know they're going to be on the scout team. They know they're a blocking dummy. They know they're going to run the other team's plays, and they're fine with it. They're a walk-on. Now, if they can do what Dabo did and catch the coach's eye and move off that scout team and get to where they're getting actual reps, but it's easier to manage your locker room. Like Ohio State and Alabama, if they want to, they can go out and get 105 four-stars. Mm-hmm. But all those 4-stars want to play, and now you got to deal with all the people around them, their parents, and I think that's what's made Dabo upset. That hey, we don't really need the 105. Let us keep 115. Give us 85 scholarships. I'll have 25 walk-ons. They'll know their role. And it's much easier to maintain your team like that, and so I think that, Kevin, to me, is what's got him upset.
All those guys want to do is to be sure they get to go home and tell everybody they're practicing without University of Alabama football team.
Yeah, and he doesn't have to worry about that guy not expecting to play. But
let's
go ahead.
Let's be honest. Walk-ons, while under the current system they do not get athletic aid, they can get academic scholarship money. They do get, they get all the gear that the scholarship guys get. They eat with the scholarship guys. That was something that changed about 10 years ago. The NCAA approved everybody on the roster, scholarship player or walk-on, is given unlimited food privileges. So, and some of them get, they earn a chance to travel, et cetera, et cetera. But Barry, I think you just hit on something that really is what bothers coaches about this new world of college athletics. Fewer and fewer guys know their role.
That's right.
More and more guys think their role is or should be bigger than it is. They think their cut of the pie should be bigger than it is, now that we're talking in financial terms. And that makes it harder for coaches to manage a roster, to keep players working hard, to keep them satisfied, to keep them from transferring the first time they get disgruntled. That I think of all the things, we can talk about individual complaints coaches have, but in the overall, fewer and fewer guys know their role, and more guys think their role is bigger than it is. And that can lead to problems in your locker room. And I think if you really cut Dabo open and so many other coaches, and they were really honest, that's really that's the heart of their issues.
Well, we're seeing it right now in the Olympics. Jason Tatum does not play. Now, Jason Tatum's good enough to play, but we can't, like he said, Steve Kerr's right. We can't play more than 10 guys. So we looked at Serbia. We looked at our matchups. These are the 10 guys. He'll play the next game. But think of how much crap he got for not playing. You can't play 11 guys. And Nate Oates is going to deal with this year with all the guys that he has. And you can win. And they won by, 30? And he's getting killed because he didn't play one guy. Well, if you have 105 4-stars over there, it's hard to manage those guys, Kevin.
Yeah. Well, that's something too. And if you watch, look at the box score, for example, of the first game. Look at how many shots. I mean, a guy like Steph Curry, who's used to getting certainly the largest number of shots on his team. He's playing a lesser role. Everybody's playing most of those guys are playing a lesser role than they're used to playing because they're all stars. They're all, all NBA players. Many of them have been world champions many times. Tatum and the Celtics just won it this year. So, but think of the ego involved too. I mean, you're one of the best players in the world, and the first game of the Olympics, and it's not his first Olympics. He was very instrumental the last time around, but he doesn't get to play. I mean, that's just embarrassing. On a personal level, that's embarrassing. Yeah. But again, if you're the coach, you're trying to win, and it's not a given, as we saw in some of the pre-Olympic games. It's not a given that those guys just walk out there and win, because there's good players all over the world now. There's NBA players all over the world.
Yeah.
So, that's a good example of that.
It would be a lot easier. He had 10 of those guys and then just had 2 guys that knew they weren't going to play. They were just happy to be on the team. It would be a lot easier to manage that. Then you get guys hurt, and you got to have guys. Anyway, we could go all night.
Maybe they should go back to the old, the first Dream Team. Well, they had one college player in Christian Laettner. He didn't play much. Maybe they should have 10 NBA guys and 2 college guys.
They should. It would be easier. Be easier for the coach to manage. It really would. And give those 2 guys great experience. They're not really expecting to play, and then they'll be ready the next time. They really should. Putting 12 All-Stars on there is stupid. You shouldn't do it that way. Anyway, Kevin, tell everybody where they can find you.
Yeah, if they just put us in charge, Barry, the world would be a better place, wouldn't it?
That's right.
Follow me on Twitter at Kevin Skarbinski. You can keep up with the different things I'm writing, primarily twice a week for the Birmingham Lead. That's BirminghamLead.com. You can subscribe to that daily publication. It'll be thrown right into your inbox. A lot of good stuff there, in addition to my 2 columns a week. And starting August 31st, Scott Griffin and I, 6:30 p.m. every Saturday on CBS 42 in Birmingham, Inside College Football. We'll break down the SEC, Alabama, Auburn, the games that have been played that day, the games that are just starting for the evening. It'll be a lot of fun. I hope people will tune in starting on the first full Saturday of college football, August 31st.
Scott won't have any. He won't have anything to say. It'd be great.
We will definitely. We might have to wear helmets. It might get a little competitive.
Yeah. Hey, I can't wait to watch that. You guys get some boxing gloves up there.
There you go. Well, I don't like my chances. The way Scott works out like a madman, I don't like my chances there.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thanks, guys.
All right, we could go all day on that. I really want to talk to him about baseball's the problem. That's a problem sport. Everybody says, it is great. They gave them more scholarship. That's great, these guys. But when you trim that roster by 6, and then you talk about arm injuries and all that stuff, man, you can get 105, you make it. 15 basketball scholarships, no problem. Baseball, you take it down to 34, which would be great. These guys are getting scholarships, but then you start getting arm injuries and all that. Boy, you get thin real fast. You're listening to Tide. We want to thank Yellowwood. Phone lines will be up when we get back. Pressure-treated pine from Great Southern brought you this 7 o'clock hour. So if it doesn't have the yellow tag on it, you don't want it. Phone lines are open 205-342-9904. You listen to Tide 100.9. It's the home of Alabama sports.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
Tuscaloosa traffic now from the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center. The trip along 69 from Mid-Larry Road to McFarland, clocking in at 7 minutes. Now further south on Lurling Wallace from McFarland to 15th Street, that'll take you about 5 minutes with no real backups there. 2059 moving at an 8-minute clip between Foster's and McFarland, and also 8 minutes westbound from Cottondale to the I-359 interchange. With your Tuscaloosa traffic now, I'm Ray Romero.
Coming up on The Game with Ryan Fowler.
Coming up on the Tuesday edition of The Game, we're going to feature Mike Detillier. We'll also feature Coach Tommy Tuberville, also wears the U.S. Senator hat from the great state of Alabama. We'll talk about a lot of things in the world of college football. We'll set the stage for practice number 1 on the University of Alabama campus, all starting at 2 p.m. on The Game on Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC, your home of Alabama Crimson Tide Sports.
The longest running sports program.
Deal to 511-511.
Your order is backed with a 90-day guarantee.
All dogs are unique. Your dog results can and will vary. Message and data rates may apply.
WTBC Tuscaloosa and W265CG Tuscaloosa, a Town Square media station. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
From the Fox Sports Studios in Los Angeles, here's Monse Bolaños.
At the 2024 Paris Olympics, Coco Gauff lost her singles third-round match to Donna Vekic from Croatia in straight sets. But Taylor Fritz won his second-round match against Jack Draper in straight sets to advance to the round of 16. The men's triathlon has been postponed to Wednesday because of pollution in the water. And swimmer Katie Ledecky will be the top seed at the women's 1,500-meter freestyle final on Wednesday. In baseball on Monday, Aaron Judge hit 2 homers to bring his total to 39 as the Yankees outscored the Phillies 14-4. The Orioles and the Blue Jays split their doubleheader, so Baltimore leads the AL East by half a game. The MLB trade deadline is Tuesday, 6 p.m. The Brewers defeated the Braves 8-3, and they acquired starter Frankie Montas from the Reds. The Atlanta Braves are reuniting with outfielder Jorge Soler, who played with them during the 2021 World Series.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Good morning. Today, expect intervals of clouds and sunshine with hot and humid conditions. Highs will reach around 95 degrees tonight. Look for partly cloudy skies. The low near 75. And for tomorrow,
Druid City Brewing Company on Saturday, August 24th. Doors open up at 3 p.m. Tickets are $10 with proceeds benefiting the Tuscaloosa Metro Animal Shelter. Learn more at ashfest.org.
Inside the locker room with former Crimson Tide basketball coach Wimp Sanderson and his son, former SEC and ACC assistant basketball coach Barry Sanderson. It's time to take you inside the locker room on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Welcome back to the second hour of Inside the Locker Room. Allstate Insurance agent Andrew Kniffer. He's my agent. Let Andrew become yours. You need to go see he and his staff, 4705 McFarland Boulevard, Suite 3 over in Northport. Give Andrew and those guys a call, 205-722-9201. They'll hook you right up with home, life, auto, whatever you need there. You can give them a call today, 205-722-9201. I have a Facebook page, Andrew Kniffer, Allstate Insurance. All right, get to the Andrew Kniffer hotline. You know, when you talk recruiting, Pat wants to get in. Good morning, Pat. Thanks for holding. Sorry we had some guests there, but how are you?
No, man. This is a wonderful day. Good morning, Coach Sanderson. I wanted to talk a little bit about what prevents Danny Sheraton's bag man from coming back when you start putting structure into things, making things still not a level playing field. Because I know lots of people out there that have safes with loads of cash in them. In cash, unless the federal government, and they're talking about going to digital currency, that'd stop everything because you'd know who shot the sheriff then. But when you have greenbacks and possibly yen, whatever way, diamonds, whatever they want to do as far as providing value to the athlete, unless the athlete spends it. And that's where most of these young kids are not smart enough to keep their mouth shut. So you might probably find out about it. But what prevents that from happening, of going back to the bag man and it still not being a level playing field? Tell me about it.
Well, you'd be ruled ineligible if you take it. They would take away your...
If you got caught.
Well, I mean, you think Jeremy Pruitt got caught?
Hey, Jared, that was just luck that they got Jeremy Pruitt. He really didn't do anything wrong. You get right down to it. Come on.
He didn't do anything wrong. He was putting cash in McDonald's bags. Pat.
Come on.
If these guys, at what point? Like, okay, we're giving you a full scholarship. We're going to revenue share with you. So $23 million is going to the athletes at Alabama. You can still
that's all athletes, right?
Yeah, but I'm saying
not football players.
The majority of it's going to go to football and basketball. They're going to get the
do y'all know how they're going to split that up?
Well, there's percentages.
Because football earns it.
Well, basketball earns some too now with the
NCAA
tournament.
Well,
all that.
But everybody else is losing money on the campus. You understand that, right?
You have to understand, Pat, that the cheaters will find a way to cheat.
Exactly. That's what I'm talking about.
Well, but that's just not to the extent that they have been. When NIL started out, it was supposed to be a legal deal. It's been illegal the whole cotton picket time because I'm going to try to outbid you to get the player. In some cases, we talked about that with the Auburn situation this morning. So.
Well, I just think if you like, we went from NIL to collectives. Those are two different things. They're trying to get the collectives out there where I'm just giving you money to come to Auburn, Alabama. You got to come in there, and you got to get a real NIL deal, but you're also going to be revenue shared with. So now you can't say, well, these guys are all getting rich off of us. They're giving you a percentage of the money. So now if you want to take money under the table, then you're jeopardizing your eligible. But not to say people won't do it, but if you can be ruled ineligible, and if these head coaches are involved, these guys are making $9-10 million a year. They don't want to break the rules, Pat. If they're not winning, guess what? They fire them with calls, and they lose all that money. So that's a reason why you want your program following the rules. They don't want to lose these contracts, right?
Yeah. Well, tell me something. How are we going to stop from unionizing? Because I'm hearing there's a lot of the schools up north were talking about unions here last year, I guess it was. And when you start going to unions, because I believe Alabama's a right to work state, I think. Isn't that correct?
It is. Yeah. Yes, it's the right to work. Yes.
And so how is all that going to come into play whenever you start unionizing?
Well, when you get the lawyers involved, everything's all about court. That's why they're trying to get Congress in to make certain things laws. Even the settlement that just went through, of course, they still got a lot to work out with it. There'll be people, when you start saying, well, the boosters just can't give them any money anymore, like the collectives, there are going to be people taking that to court, saying if somebody wants to give me X number of dollars, they ought to be able to do it. So I don't know, Pat. It's a mess at this point, but they're trying to make it better. They're trying to get some rules in place to try to make it true NIL. The athletes are going to be treated better than ever, and so we'll just have to see I'm ready for the games to start. When the games start, then all this talk goes away, right? We're talking about whether a guy can block and tackle and catch the football. That's just a month away.
And that's what's going to come into play. You're talking about that Auburn. There's still two top players. I really think that Alabama is going to get offered that out of Parker High School over there. That he's made 4 trips to Tuscaloosa. And we really do need to pick up another defensive back, but we got to have defensive linemen. And that's what I'm looking at, that hopefully things are going to come into place. And as soon as the season starts, and if we come out of, what do y'all think is going to happen to Auburn's recruiting if we come out of Georgia game still undefeated?
Well,
if we come out of the Georgia game undefeated, all bets is off as to how recruiting classes finished. Do y'all not agree?
The last 4 or 5 years, Dad can comment on this better than me, Auburn hasn't been a threat to Alabama at all. Brian Harsin down there, even the end of Gus Malzahn's here, as far as recruiting. Now, Gus Malzahn did a good job game day coaching and scheming against Nick Saban. But they're starting to, because they got a guy down there that is serious about winning, and they are serious about winning, that he is recruit. That's all he does is think about recruiting. So they are starting to build some momentum, which I don't think you really don't want them to build any momentum. You want to be able to get whoever you want. But if they start to recruit well, then they start to win. That's just another thorn in your side. In recruiting, and I understand Alabama's going national, but you got to get these guys that you want in the state as well to keep this thing at the level where you have. Everybody says, well, Nate Oates is not doing it. Basketball's totally different. When you're only signing 4 or 5 guys, that's a big difference when you got to sign 30, Pat. So you would have to agree that Auburn is building a little momentum right now.
Well, you have to remember, Pat, that you can cheat for 25-26.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But
I went to see
talked about.
Yeah.
They already did whatever they did. I think they probably did in some case. The one thing about me is you have to understand, I'm not naive about anything. I lived too long to be naive about anything. So I'm not saying that Auburn didn't buy some, because I'm sure they did. All of them, their parents had a lot to do with what was going on. But I just think that. I think we're wide open until 25-26. They ain't got here yet.
Yeah, what could happen on this deal, Pat, is they could have brought these guys down there and said, "Look, we're going to give you X number of dollars," and then these new rules kick in, and they get there and say, "Well, we can't do it anymore. It's not legal anymore." That's going to happen.
That was what they old Miss. That was those cheerleaders that was from Tiffany's up in Memphis. They weren't there when those guys got back here in the fall to play football.
Yeah, they're going to say, "Wait a minute, you told me on that Big Cat Weekend you were going to give me a $200,000."
You borrow that Big Cat Weekend doesn't mean you can buy them in 25-26.
Yeah, he said, "Well, I have my fingers crossed."
All right, guys, y'all have a blessed day, Coach. Go hit some golf balls. It's kind of hot, but be careful in that heat, Coach.
Thank you, Pat. Thanks for holding. Thanks for holding for us. All right, there's Pat. I always enjoy having Pat call in. Pat loves recruiting. All right, we'll get to break here. Tuscaloosa Toyota. Go to TuscaloosaToyota.com, and you can look at all the inventory they got on the lot out there on Skyland Boulevard. These guys will do great for you. We look forward to talking to Justin tomorrow about the Tacomas, the Highlanders, the Camrys, the RAV4s, a hot car out there at Tuscaloosa Toyota. So swing by there today. Tell them that Wimp and Barry sent you. Doug Bell is next. This is Tide 100.9 and 12:30 a.m. WTBC is the home of Alabama sports.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
Tuscaloosa traffic now from the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center. We had a medical emergency for a while on westbound 2059 at Skyland Boulevard. That scene is cleared. Lanes are all open, and we aren't noting any trouble along the way there. In fact, it's a quiet ride through most of the region. If you're traveling McFarland from Coker down to U of A and I-20 beyond,
Report to 511-511.
These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Tax fees may apply.
This report is sponsored by Mothers Against Drunk Driving.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Good morning. Today, expect intervals of clouds and sunshine with hot and humid conditions. Highs will reach around 95 degrees. Tonight, look for partly cloudy skies, the low near 75. And for tomorrow, expect mostly sunny skies with a few clouds. Continued heat and humidity with highs near 96. I'm meteorologist Bill Murray on Tide 100.9.
Mr. SEC Tournament Wimp Sanderson gives you his excellent analysis every weekday on Inside the Locker Room, right here on Tide 100.9.
Welcome back to Inside the Locker Room. Been a fun show so far, and it only gets better. We'll get right to the Yellowwood Hotline. He's the play-by-play with the PGA Tour Radio, PGA Tour Live, also CBS Sports headquarters. We're getting close to Doug's picks, and everybody's excited about that with college football. Practice starting tomorrow, 1 month of season to get going. Good morning, Doug. How are you?
Hey, Doug.
Hey, Barry. Hey, Coach. Man, I'm excited about football, golf too, but football because my picks this year are going to be incredible.
Yeah,
your picks.
The gamblers are excited too.
Yeah. Yes,
you think about going and traveling to a golf tournament for 7 straight years, and you don't win. You make enough. You make enough money to get you there and back, and you make fair money. But this guy who won in Minneapolis, Minnesota, unbelievable victory after 7 years to win like that. And that last putt he made, he didn't even flinch. He knew the putt was to win. The putt was to win it. If he missed it, they tied. He got up there. He didn't even read it. He got up there and knocked it in.
Yeah, you're talking about Jonathan Vegas.
Yeah.
Great guy, by the way. And listen, his story is somewhat forgotten, guys, but here's a guy from Venezuela. And 29 years ago, he was 10 years old, and he was an outstanding junior golfer. And the government of Venezuela, and obviously there's still trouble in Venezuela, they were going to outlaw golf. They were closing all the golf courses. So the guy who was teaching him how to play said, we've got to get him out of Venezuela. So the golf pro in Venezuela takes him to Texas to his friend who's a golf pro in Houston. This was 29 years ago.
Really?
And and he leaves his family behind. He tells Johnny's mom and dad, we got to get him out of here. So he goes to this pro in Houston and says, hey, can you take this kid? Because I don't know what else to do. And this golf pro in Houston said, yeah, I'll take him. So he took this 10-year-old kid who didn't know English into his home. He had other kids. Obviously continued to teach him how to play golf. Next thing you know, he becomes, adept at speaking English, honor student in high school in Houston, goes to the University of Texas where he's an All-American,
really?
Works his way onto the PGA Tour. Yeah. And the amazing thing, Coach, you're right. He hadn't won in 7 years. He'd had elbow surgery twice, and it was not playing great, but then it all caught lightning in a bottle this weekend. But his story, and I wanted to tell that story to the listeners because you could make a movie about this guy, and it is an amazing story. He left his family behind as a 10-year-old because of this golf pro in Venezuela. Said, listen, and he told his parents, we got to get him out of here because he's too good of a player to be stuck in Venezuela and not be able to play golf anymore.
And he has the ability to get into the University of Texas?
Yeah, this golf pro in Houston had connections. He obviously had played college golf himself and got him in the University of Texas where he was an All-American and really an outstanding player, worked his way through the Korn Ferry Tour, onto the PGA Tour. And, he'd won 3 times up to 7 years ago. And then like a lot of these guys just didn't win, and then he got hurt. And the amazing thing about it, a lot of amazing things. When I first started covering him 20 years ago, he was just a guy. He was with a great smile, and there he was Sunday with his wife and 2 beautiful children. I mean, he's grown up before my very eyes, and there he was. They ran out onto the green, and he gave him a big hug. But your coach, you're right. He landed on the green and had a 2-putt from 96 feet.
Yeah,
and that was a tough putt. But he left himself after that first putt about 3 feet, and that was for the birdie to get his first win in 7 years. Great story. It really, really is an amazing story.
Doug, I guess we got the Wyndham Championship this week. I don't know what kind of field you have in that. Then the FedEx St. Jude Championship. So I guess that starts. Explain that to us again. Go ahead.
Barry, it's an off week. The Wyndham is in 2 weeks.
I'm sorry.
Starting Thursday is the Olympics. The Olympic golf.
Yes.
And it's represented, obviously, Scotty Scheffler and Xander Schauffele, the top 2 players in the world, are there. Colin Morikawa and Wyndham Clark are the other 2 Americans. The bigger countries have 4 participants in the tournament, and the smaller countries have 2. And I think there's a total of close to 40 golfers in the field. They play at the same venue where they played the Ryder Cup a couple of years ago in Paris. The European Tour plays there all the time. It's a golf course that's going to give up a lot of birdies, so it'll be interesting. They implemented the Olympics, I guess, in Rio 6 years ago. They brought it back after a long hiatus, and at the time there were all these health issues down in Rio, and a lot of big name golfers, Rory and some of these other guys, Tiger, they didn't want to play. They bowed out, and that's when Justin Rose won the gold, and Matt Kuchar won the bronze, by the way, and he was excited. And then when they had it in Japan, because of the pandemic, there weren't any fans really to speak of, but Xander Schauffele won the gold. And so here we are, the third go-round of Olympic golf, men and women. And so now there's big interest. I mean, a guy like Xander wants to win his second gold, and Scotty Scheffler never thought he'd ever be playing in the Olympics, and here he is. So, he has a chance to win a gold medal. So I think for a lot of these guys, it's a pretty cool deal. And it goes without saying, Hideki Matsuyama would like to win a gold for Japan, and all these guys are representing their country. Ludwig Oberg, the young Swede who plays in the PGA Tour, he'd like to win one for Sweden. So it'll be fun. It'll be on the Golf Channel this week, and it's like any other. I would like to see team competition. I think that would be fun, but it's just an individual tournament, just like you do every week on the PGA Tour. But it'll still, if you love golf, it'll still be fun to see these guys playing for not money, which is something, right? Because it's all about money these days. These guys are actually playing for their country and playing for the chance to win a gold, silver, or bronze medal.
Yeah, I don't really like that format. I like it to be country versus country. Have it.
Yeah, wouldn't that be cool?
That'd be better, right? Just go out there and play. I don't know, Doug. I don't like the format.
Well, that's the only thing. It is just like a regular tournament. I do wish it was a little bit different because I think it would be more, we could get behind our country a little more, right, as opposed to just an individual.
Give it more of a Ryder Cup feel. You're going
exactly.
So I don't know.
But we'll see. I mean, to think that, and golfers always make a big deal about the money they make. And even at the Ryder Cup, there's a stink. Some of these guys, Patrick Cantlay and others, they think the players ought to be compensated more than they are. And at the Ryder Cup, they're given so much money to donate to their favorite charity. It's kind of one of those things. But in the Olympics now, other than getting paid by their sponsors or whatever they get paid, they really are just playing for the right to win a medal. So there's something to be said for that. And Rory's in it too, by the way. Rory and John Rahm, he's representing Spain, and Rahm has had a terrible year, even though he won last week on Live, where he plays now. But so all the big names are there, the usual suspects. So we'll see what happens. And again, it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, just like a regular PGA Tour event, and it will be on the Golf Channel because that's all part of the Olympic coverage on NBC.
Now, tell me, I missed that something. I'm sorry, what I understand where Barry's coming from. What are they doing with the Ryder Cup? Because I mean Ryder Cup with the Olympics.
They're just all playing and.
Regular stroke play, Coach. Yeah, it's just a regular stroke play event, just like any other week.
That's boring.
Well, yeah, and I thought you could also, they have men and women's competition. Obviously, you could not only have a team deal, but you could have a mixed team deal where you could have a lady and a man represent your country. I mean, I think that would be kind of neat too. But and maybe they'll come to that someday. Right now, they're just kind of. I guess the thought process is. 6 years ago, they got golf finally back into the Olympics after decades of trying. And now, I guess, let's just keep it simple. Let's just play a regular stroke event, see where it goes, and see if the interest grows, and then maybe they can move on from something else. But, I mean, some of these other crazy sports they have in the Olympics, it's amazing it took that long to get golf back in the Olympics, in my opinion.
Yeah, before we go to something you know a lot about, which is football, tell us where we are with golf, with the PGA versus LIV and all that kind of stuff. Just so I know.
Well, where we are, and this is interesting. As Barry mentioned, Wyndham is next week, the last regular season stop, as these guys try to make the top 70. Only the top 70 make the playoffs. Nick Dunlap's going to be in that first round of the playoffs. I think he is now 62nd. I may be off on that by a couple, but Nick is in the playoffs. Obviously, Justin Thomas has had a good year. Lee Hodges is on the outside. He missed the cut up in Minneapolis, so he's like 75th. I need to double-check that, but Lee needs to play really well to win him in order to make the playoffs. So that's where we are. And then the playoffs, they'll play in Memphis, the first round, and then it'll be the top 50 will go out to Denver, Castle Pines, where they used to have that international tournament. And then the final 30 go to Eastlake, where they'll crown the FedEx Cup champion, where the winner gets, $18 million bonus or whatever the case may be. And then this fall, guys, we go to the fall. There'll be 8 tournaments in the fall, which will have nothing to do with the FedEx Cup. All it'll have to do is with players trying to get their cards for next year. If they're not already in the top 125, that'll give them an opportunity to get in the top 125, which gives them playing privileges next year. And if you can play if you want. Most of the big names won't, but you can improve your status. Remember now, if you make the top 50, you are in all the signature big money events next year. That's the key.
Okay,
that's what you want.
Help me with this, Doug. All right, so when there's the top 70, you said 70? Make it. All right, so how do you advance? Like Scotty Scheffler's advancing anyway, regardless of what he does, correct? How do you advance to the next round? And then when they get to East Lake, does Scheffler start with that big lead again where he starts at whatever under that he is 10 under? Is that how? Yeah. Kind of talk us through how do you advance to the next round? Let's say if you're Nick Dunlap, who I think he's 41, it looked like right now. What does he have to do to advance to the next round?
Well, again, first off, if you're in the top 30 now, and Scotty Scheffler is way ahead, way ahead of Xander Schauffele. I mean, anybody in the top 30, certainly in the top 20, are virtually assured of making East Lake. I mean, it's just, they've had great years and they're going to make it. But the points in the playoffs double, Barry. So let's just say you're number 70, like Lucas Glover last year, going into Wyndham, he was outside the top 70. He won the Wyndham. That gets him inside the top 70. He won in Memphis. So that got him inside the top 30. So he went back-to-back wins, and so he catapulted. I mean, he jumped like 50 spots to make it to East Lake for the first time. So, in other words, for a guy, somebody, number one, you got to get in the top 70 to get in the playoffs. And then once you get in that first round in Memphis, you need a high finish. You need to finish probably in the top 25 or higher to catapult into that top 50. And then the same thing goes when you get to the top 50. You need to, there's only 50 guys, so you need to finish about in the top 15 to earn enough points, which are doubled, to make it in the top 30.
Where's Thomas down?
So Nick Dunlap's at 41. So as long as he plays pretty decent, he should stay in the top 50, right, Doug?
Yeah, and the thing about Nick is it looks to me the players vote on PGA Tour Rookie of the Year, and even though he won that first tournament as an amateur, I think he's the guy. I think ultimately he's going to be the PGA Tour Rookie of the Year, having 2 wins now.
Wow.
Even though one was an amateur and one was, as a member of the PGA Tour. And that's the first time that's ever happened in history, by the way, that a player has won in the same year, won a PGA Tour event as an amateur, and then later in the same year won as a member of the PGA Tour. That's pretty remarkable what that young guy's pulled off. But yeah, as for Justin Thomas, right now, JT, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I think he's inside the top 30. He's had enough strong finishes where he's earned enough points. I mean, he's had a pretty good year from start to finish, even though he didn't qualify. He missed, he didn't play. Well, he came on strong there and played better after that miserable second day at the Open Championship, but he didn't make the Olympic team. So he is off. He's not playing this week, obviously, and he won't play the Wyndham. Last year he had to play Wyndham because he wasn't inside the top 70. And if you remember on the 72nd hole on Sunday, JT needed to chip it in from off the green to go, and it hit the cup and spun out. And that's when he fell backwards under the ground, and it was kind of a dramatic finish. But he's done enough work this year to solidly get inside the playoffs, so that's good news for Justin Thomas. And we'll see. He's shown glimpses here in the last month of the season. Hasn't put 4 good rounds together, but he's played a good round here, maybe 2 or 3 good rounds in a tournament. So maybe JT has found something. I hope so. It's been a long time. Justin Thomas is pretty amazing when you think his last win was the summer of 2022 at the PGA Championship. That's been a long time ago.
We got a listener, Doug, just messaged me being a smart aleck about you, Doug, said get a pick from him on who takes the gold in golf. I'm broke. I may make some money. I'm going to go opposite.
See, you guys have spread this narrative. You know, I have
I just don't think that Scotty Scheffler and those guys are going. I mean, they're going to be serious when they get on the course, but I don't think they're going to train, and they're not going to treat this like a PGA Tour event. Am I wrong about that?
Well, that's interesting because for the opening ceremonies, Wyndham Clark and Colin Morikawa, they experienced the opening ceremonies with everybody, and they were getting their pictures with all the stars. You know, the basketball players. Steph Curry, they were getting their picture with Steph. Steph's a big golf fan. Scotty flew in just this week. You know, he was at the Open Championship, and then his wife and baby came over, and the family just kind of traveled around, and they'd never been to Paris. Yeah, I mean, so, you know, he hasn't really kind of got caught up in the Olympic fervor like everybody else. And, of course, Xander needed a little downtime after winning the Open Championship. You know, he and his family were kind of celebrating. So, you know, it's interesting. Colin Morikawa and Wyndham have really gotten into this Olympic thing. You know, they're wearing the garb and opening ceremonies, et cetera. And Scotty and Xander kind of treat it like a regular stop. You know, they show up at the tournament and, you know, they're practicing for a few days and they're going to tee it up on Thursday. So, but to pick a winner, you know, the guy who I really like, and he won last week, was Jon Rahm. First time he's won all year. And Tyrrell Hatton, another guy who used to be in the PGA Tour, you know, he missed a 3-foot putt on the last hole.
He's got a bad temper to start with.
Yeah, which allowed Rahm to win that tournament. His first tournament win all year, by the way. So I think Rahm is probably playing at a pretty good level. And I think Jon Rahm. And listen, Rahm is a guy, all these guys from other countries, I mean, he loves his home country of Spain. And Spain doesn't get that opportunity to win too many gold medals. So I think Jon Rahm I think he's all in this week. That's the guy I like. And again, if you look at the odds, Scheffler's the favorite, Xander's second, Rory's the third favorite, and Rahm is fourth. And that's usually the way it is at major championships. So nothing really changes, even though it's the Olympic golf. But I kind of like Jon Rahm this week. And he's played that course a lot.
I think they missed a great opportunity. You pair the Americans together and they play somebody and they do alternate shot in the morning and then the best ball in the afternoon. I mean, that's USA, but that's what you want to see, Doug. This stuff ain't, I don't know.
No, wouldn't it be great? You know, the top two players in the world are Americans.
Yeah.
And wouldn't it be cool if Scheffler and Schauffele were a two-man team going in as the favorites?
Yeah.
And going.
What other golfers are there?
Well, I mean, all the big names are there, Coach. Like representing Ireland is Rory McIlroy and Shane Lowry.
Okay.
You know, Alex Noren, who plays on the PGA Tour, he's from Sweden, and Ludwig Oberg, the young kid from Texas Tech, who's played really well in the PGA Tour. He's the other guy from Sweden. Hideki Matsuyama is there representing Japan. And the other Japanese player is a guy who plays regularly on the Japanese tour, and his name, he's not a guy who plays a lot on the PGA Tour, so I don't really recognize his name. But if you go down the list, you recognize virtually all these guys. Now, when you get to some of these smaller countries, you don't necessarily, and it was interesting, and I can't remember the one country. It was a very small country over in somewhere in Europe. And they had a player who qualified, but their country, I wish I could remember the name. They wouldn't allow the guy to play. They said, "You're not good enough. We don't want to. We don't want to be embarrassed. So you're not. We don't want you to go over there and play." And he qualified to represent his country. But I thought that was kind of that's kind of what the Olympics is about, right? You get a chance to go and represent your country, but his country said, "No,
you're going to embarrass our country." Yeah,
yeah. You got to look that up. I saw that story yesterday. I wish I could remember it for you guys, but I got a kick out of that one. I said, "Oh my goodness, that's not really the Olympic."
I'm looking at the names, the tee times. I recognize about half this field. Some of them I've never heard of. So, Scheffler is playing with McIlroy at guess he tees all at 10-11, says. So
I have a feeling.
Yeah,
I know what you'll be doing with your time off.
Well, I mean, might be working on my golf game. Who knows?
Yeah,
I haven't had a chance to play golf in a while.
Yeah, who knows? I got it.
And plus, I got to start doing research on the picks. August 24th.
You're real
Georgia
busy.
Tech and Florida State.
I got you.
I mean,
where are you
right
leaning
now,
that first week, Doug? I mean, what's one game? What's one or two games you're really studying right now?
Well, Florida State 12.5 over Georgia Tech, and I thought Georgia Tech at the end of last season was playing some pretty good football. Obviously, Florida State, we know what happened to them, but 12.5, that's interesting. And you got the old Clemson quarterback who went out to Oregon State, DJ DJU. Yeah, and so he's the quarterback now. That'll be interesting. And then the same day, SMU is playing Nevada, and they're 24.5-point favorites. And SMU's coming off a pretty good season now in the ACC. So, that again, I'm going to at least watch a little bit of that. That's something. And then here's the other bet. I saw this bet today. You can have North Carolina, Kentucky, and USC. Those three, and their win totals are 7.5 or over, and it's plus 120. So
that's what you call gambling.
Well, I mean, what do you think? Kentucky, USC, North Carolina, all over 7.5 wins for the season. You can bet them now at plus 120.
Individually, plus 120, right? Not as a whole. They don't all have to do it, right?
Yeah, as a whole. Yeah.
That's only plus 120?
Well, that's the way I read it.
Oh, you got so 3 teams got to win over 7.5. That's not a good bet, Doug. Don't touch that.
Well, I was thinking, I mean, that's a pretty good season for all 3 of those schools.
So you would go under then.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. Carolina's got a new quarterback. Kentucky in the newly configured Southeastern Conference. I mean, I don't know. And then I'm not so sure about USC going into the Big Ten now.
We got to talk to Chuck Norwood, see if he's wanting to sponsor that blue plate. Are you going to bet the blue plate special this year, Doug?
Oh, of course. Yeah, absolutely.
So you wrote it last year?
Yes. I mean, guys, I'm just telling you, this coming season, which starts in less than a month, and we're going to segue right from golf to football, and you guys, it's going to be a heck of a year. I mean, last year was a down year. I admit it. Although I did get hot at the end of the season, by the way.
I don't remember you having an up year. You've been on with us for 3 years. So who are you going to take in this Georgia-Clemson game? Line's 13.5.
Well, I think right now it's great that they're playing again, right, at the beginning of the season. I mean, right now I'm leaning to Georgia.
To cover the third.
That is if Kirby can keep all his guys out of jail.
How about Miami's a 2.5-point favorite over Florida in Gainesville?
Yeah, boy, what a big game for Florida with that schedule. I think Florida, by the way, is going to be better than advertised. I like their quarterback, and they really did a nice job in the transfer portal. By the way, they got 2 offensive linemen in the portal that were starters elsewhere. I mean, I think Florida's tough schedule, obviously, but I like the Gators in Gainesville. And remember when they opened a couple of years ago with Anthony Richardson, they beat a really good Utah team.
Yeah,
I think Billy gets his team ready early.
How about Western Kentucky and Alabama? Kalen DeBoer's first game, is he going to send a message? The line is 31. You got the swarm defense. And Jalen Milroe, you think Alabama can cover that 31, or don't touch that?
No, I think they cover.
Oh, Lord.
I think they cover with relative ease. I think offensively Alabama is going to be stout.
Don't you wonder what games Dad's studying right now?
Well, you're awful quiet. I know he's studying something.
I'm not sure what I'm doing.
See, that means he's doing something when he says he's not sure what he's doing.
LSU on Sunday night, 6-point favorite over Southern Cal in Vegas. That's nice. There'll be some good games that first weekend.
Oh man, I love it. I absolutely love it. Yeah, and again, LSU's got the new quarterback, right?
Yeah, Nussmeier.
Yeah, I mean, now he was. I thought he was pretty good, in the bowl game there. But I think the jury's out on LSU.
Yeah. All right.
I mean, I'm not sure they filled the gaps like the others with the transfer portal.
Tell us about MD Wellness and Aesthetics before we let you go.
Absolutely. Susan is the owner, and obviously she's excited about football and my picks. And so I'm just telling you guys. It's 205-582-9216, MDWellnessandAesthetics.com. And check it out because Susan's been at 650 Inverness Corners in Birmingham for a long time. Services a lot of people who keep coming back, which says a lot. Whether it's skin care, hair replacement, they specialize in the laser treatments, by the way, weight loss. They do it. It's safe. Dr. Dawn Mancuso is the MD. She's there. And the best thing about it, call Susan, sit down with her, talk on the phone. It's a free consultation as you kind of implement this plan. MDWellnessandAesthetics.com.
Well, the only one that's worried about your pick is Brandy. She's worried about your pick.
Listen, I'll leave that one. I'll just leave that one.
Leave that alone. Yeah.
There you go, Doug. Go study, Doug.
Talk to you next week, guys.
All right.
Monday. I'll talk to you next Monday. All
right. Let's tell them about Bryant Bank before we get to break.
Well, Bryant Bank, 4 locations in Tuscaloosa. I guess we talk about that first, but because we have so many listeners there. But we've got a lot of Bryant Banks in the city of Birmingham, one right below me on 280, and another right down the road on 280, and also one in Columbiana. So Bryant Bank is an outstanding bank. They do everything they possibly can to help the local people, the local schools. You're going into a bank that's not only a well-kept bank, but a good banker. They know that give you the opportunity to bank online around the clock. But be darn sure that your money's taken care of once it gets in there. If you have things that you need to do with the bank as far as borrowing money or putting money somewhere or savings accounts or whatever you might want to do, then all you got to do is go by a Bryant Bank, visit with them. And I think that you'll find these people are really interested in trying to help you. Remember now, if you live around here, you have the same area code, the same zip code as they do, so they're your people. So go by Bryant Bank and tell them you heard on Inside the Locker Room.
Oxome Services today at 205-979-0946 or visit OxomeServices.com.
This report is sponsored by Tire Rack.
Find Tide on Twitter at Tide109 to keep up with show announcements, guests, and our reporters in the field.
Welcome back to Inside the Locker Room. All right, we'll get right to I'm sorry, Chase. So we do have one more break, or so we take one more and then we finish the show? Okay. All right, get right to the Yellowwood Hotline. Get Cowboy in. Good morning, Cowboy.
Good morning, Barry. Coach, how you guys doing?
Good, buddy. How are you?
Okay.
All right. I heard some of the early talk about in-state recruiting for football. I'm surprised to see we lost that young man from Selma, but I guess Auburn's always kind of been a Selma stronghold, hasn't it?
Yep. It has.
Remember, there used to be some basketball players out of Selma.
Well, we've had some football players. We've had some football players back before Barry was ever born from Selma that went to Alabama. Some darn good ones. And
yeah.
But it just goes and comes at Selma. You know, we had the racial thing there that caused a lot of problems, but it's been a little bit of both.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll see. I know they got some pretty good recruits for 2026 in-state class headed towards Auburn. So I guess, Barry, we'll see how this thing rolls, won't we?
Yeah, they're building some momentum. They're working at it now down there, Cowboy, and they're serious about recruiting. Hugh Freeze he understands that's the name of the game, and so they're going to be a little bit of a thorn in Alabama's side. Now, whether they can how much they can catch them, that's another thing. But if they keep taking the top kids in the state, you go national, which is fine. I think Alabama can, but I think you got to get some here in this area as well. I think to keep it where you want to.
You got to sprinkle in a few of those guys that kind of grew up knowing what it feels like for Alabama to win. It's bred in them a little bit. You don't want to be like we were in the Pat out there losing Alabama guys to Auburn.
Yeah.
Yeah. We got some Auburn kids come play for us under Coach Stevens. Rashad Evans comes to my mind right off the bat. And he was a good football player for us. Played a lot of winning football for us.
Yeah, I think if they get it going, and then they're recruiting pretty well right now with pretty average teams. If they start having really good teams and the enthusiasm gets to rolling, I think they could, I'm not saying they're going to keep Alabama from winning, but, Pat Dye was a little bit of a problem when he was down there. Alabama wasn't quite as good then, and I think Auburn had a lot to do with it because they were getting a lot of the guys, right, Cowboy?
Tuberville down there.
Tuberville, too.
They had some defensive linemen under Pat Dye that was just, man, they were tough football players. Well, I hadn't talked much about this, but, if you look at Auburn's schedule, and they can come out that gate 5-0 and beat Oklahoma at home, you better watch out because I don't think they're going worse than 9-3 if they do that.
Oh, they'll win 7 or 8.
Yeah, 7 or 8, I think, is right. That schedule after that little home stretch, it stiffens up on them a little bit there, Cowboy.
Yeah, but say you start out 5-0 and you got 7 left.
Yeah.
Missouri, I don't expect them to do as much as they did last year. I'd say they probably Auburn ought to beat Missouri. They could beat A&M at home. You just don't know how it's going to turn out when things start turning in October, And
you have to understand sometimes Auburn's not ready to play when they're playing somebody they're supposed to beat.
That's true, Coach. You're right, But I'm just saying, don't be surprised, if things can flip that way.
Well, I'm just saying, Alabama beat them this year, but Auburn was very bad last year and should have beat Alabama. Now, you get Alabama down there again, and they get more talent in there, you won't be as lucky as to convert a 4th and 31 down there as they start to build their talent level. Now, they're going to probably lose to Alabama here, but I think they're gearing towards that next season, and then they get Alabama down there. So, anyway, Cowboy.
Well, Barry,
yes, sir.
I'm going to be down in Gulf Shores, Orange Beach area this Friday night. I got to drive down there and be down there for close to next week. I don't know if I'd run into Coach at Dollar General like one of the
No, I won't be there. I've got problems here at the house I got to handle. So
he hangs out the Dollar General down there, Cowboy?
Well, remember that caller last summer called in and said he ran into Coach at the Dollar General.
I don't remember.
I might stop
I guess he probably. I was down there. I got a Dollar General.
I'm gonna tell you where he didn't see him, Cowboy. Is waiting in line at any restaurant. He ain't never waiting in line. He's going straight to the front and getting seated. So.
Oh, he gives that $2,050 handshake that'll get you right in. Won't
he just knows the right people. And everybody with him gets him. He says the people with.
Open up down there?
There's a place on the beach in Orange Beach, Coastal something. It's kind of nice. You can sit out there and eat and look out over the beach. So.
Yeah, Cobalt's pretty good.
Yeah,
Cobalt's pretty good. I like that. My kids like it. But,
all right, Cowboy.
Maybe I'll run into somebody down there. All right,
awful good.
Thank you, Doc. Thank you, Cowboy.
Thank you.
All right, we'll take this break. That's about it for the show, but we'll take this break and get the Gary Harris Show rolling. If I have to come back in for one little quick segment, we can. You listen to Tide 100.9. It's the home of Alabama sports.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
Tuscaloosa
Gary
traffic
said
now
he's
from the
running late,
Townsend
but
Nissan
we're done.
Traffic
I'll
Center.
finish it up.
McFarland Boulevard is moving at a 13-minute clip from Coker down to Jack Warner Parkway along the westbound side of 2059 from Cottondale to the I-359 interchange. 8 minutes there, 8 minutes eastbound as well from Foster's on to McFarland. Quiet into and out of the area as we start to wind down this Tuesday morning drive. With your Tuscaloosa traffic now, I'm Ray Romero.
Go inside the Alabama Crimson Tide with the Gary Harris Show.
Hey, it's Gary Harris. Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. It's the Gary Harris Show. The Rocket Man, Drudy Armand, will join us to talk some Alabama sports. He always does a great job. Plus, we'll have another guest as well, and we'll take your phone calls as we get ready for Alabama football kicking off fall camp on Wednesday. That's the Tuesday edition of the Gary Harris Show.
The one-day hands-on driving school gives teens experience in car control through exercises that include emergency braking and skid recovery. Find a class near you at TireRack.com/survive.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Good morning. Today, expect intervals of clouds and sunshine with hot and humid conditions. Highs will reach around 95 degrees tonight. Look for partly cloudy skies, the low near 75. And for tomorrow, expect mostly sunny skies with a few clouds. Continued heat and humidity with highs near 96. I'm meteorologist Bill Murray on Tide 100.9.
Inside the locker room with Wimp and Barry on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Welcome back to Inside the Locker Room. All right, Chase, did you watch any of the Olympics last night? Did you see the men's gymnastics?
I did not. Tell me about it.
Well, they they hadn't medaled since 2008, and they ended up winning the bronze medal. And they had, and I won't try to pronounce his last name, this guy named Steven. He says he can work in a Rubik's Cube within 10 seconds, but he had to do the last event. He has glasses. They kind of were calling him Clark Kent. When he did it's the horse, I guess, is where he twirls around or whatever. Well, he took his glasses off, so I'm not sure how he did all that with his glasses off, but they ended up winning the bronze medal. Those guys were pumped. And so it's a lot of story. One of the gymnasts had lost his mother to cancer, and they showed his dad up there watching, did a little special. And so these stories, man, I don't mind to tell you, I sit over there and Jenny laughs at me because I cry when I hear all these stories of like Simone Biles and, all the things that Suni Lee, that they went through to get back. They were at the top, but man, to have to lose it all and then come back and get yourself to where these girls are now. So today I know the team championship. I'm trying not to watch it at all and know what happens. So when we watch it tonight, it'll be, it'll be taped, but we won't really know what's going to happen. There should be some great stories tonight with the Olympics. I'm disappointed about the Olympic golf, though. I think they missed a great opportunity with the Olympic golf to put USA together and just throw those guys out there and play a golf tournament. That's stupid. Put the Americans against the other guys, and that would be a lot more fun to do it that way. All right, the Gary Harris Show is next. I'll get out of the way. Gary's the guru now. He's up here, and the guests just come to him. Now, normally we have to try to get these guests. Gary's so big, they just walk in his studio. So maybe it'll be somebody. We'll see who walks in Gary's studio today. You listen to Tide 100.9, 1230 AM WTBC. It's the home of Alabama sports. Have a great day, everybody.